come to the rink and try and win championships, and that's what it's all about. When you look from the outside and you watch this team, I know we're going to have a real good, solid hockey team this year.
Welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Eric Wilson, and today we have an interesting trade rumor speculation video about one of the best players in the NHL, Patrick Kane. You know, Chicago might be trading him. Rumors. Just rumors, not a whole lot of substance, but of course the Rangers are always connected to Patrick Kane. There's always fans that want him, so we figured we might as well just discuss him really quickly in this episode, just talking about the potential of trading for him. Is it even a realistic possibility? Let's get into that. Eric, how are you doing today, and what are your thoughts on the potential of a blockbuster Patrick Kane trade?
I'm doing good. And, the possibility of Patrick Kane being traded, I believe, is almost inevitable at this point. But to the Rangers, it's possible. I would hope it is. But, Chris Drew would have to put in a lot of work. We'd have to say goodbye to a lot of players that we've grown to love over the last couple of years. So we really just need to consider who would be thrown into this trade and would it be worth it for a player like Patrick Kane. So I know you have a lot to say about that. So let's break that down.
Yeah, let's break it down. Of course, we'll talk about his stats as we always do. Introduce the player, introduce the stats. 2022 season, 2021-22 season, 78 games played, 26 goals, 66 assists, 92 total points. Just killer. That's a ton of points. We all know that. He's a points machine, Patrick Kane. Career, he's played over 1,000 games, 1,107 to be exact, 430 goals, 750 assists, 1,180 total points. He's a three-time Stanley Cup winner, 2013 Conn Smythe winner, 2016 Hart Memorial winner. The dude is a beast. He's an absolute legend in the NHL. He's a controversial one, of course, but we won't get too much into that. Let's talk about the potential of trading for him. He's 34 years old. This year, he is worth a $10.5 million cap hit. The Rangers currently have $11.9 million in salary cap space. So basically, trading for Patrick Kane, if they didn't give up any players in return, whatever, they would be eating away pretty much all of their salary cap space if Chicago said, no, we will not take on any of this contract. In order for this to work, Chicago would have to retain some of the contract or pay for some of the wages. That's inevitable. They have to do that. The Rangers cannot take on the full $10.5 million cap hit. But additionally, in order to make space for a cap hit of that size, the Rangers are going to have to trade some of their players away. And they're going to be some crucial players. And they're definitely going to have to let some players walk away in free agency, as Eric mentioned, some players that we really, really like. So, Eric, Patrick Kane has a lot of interest from a lot of teams. Everybody's going to be interested if he truly is on the trade block. The Buffalo Sabres, that's like the main team. Everybody thinks he's going to go there. That's his hometown team. If he does get traded, it's probably to Buffalo, but maybe not. Maybe he's not upstate New York. Maybe he's New York City, wants to play in the Garden for the Rangers. I don't know. The whole thing is kind of a pipe dream for Rangers fans. But Eric, tell me, what about this pipe dream makes it so exciting to you?
Well, Patrick Kane, in my opinion, and in a lot of people's opinions, is most likely the greatest American-born player in NHL history. You already mentioned his career stats, phenomenal. Throughout his entire career, he's been over a point per game player, which is very hard to come by. And like you said, 2013 Conn Smythe winner, which for those who don't know is the playoff MVP. He was also the 2016 Hart Memorial winner, as you mentioned, which is the league MVP throughout the season. And he's just one of those players that, is always out there on the ice, very consistent every time that he plays the game. He's already 34 years old, and he has not let his old age ruin his game a single bit. By 30 or 31, you see most players' stats start to decline, yet he's 34, and he's still improving and getting better with his game. And he's a player that's very similar to Panarin. He's been doing what Panarin has been doing for the Rangers for the last 10 years. So you add another player like him with an elite goal scorer like Chris Kreider, and you just have an insane offense that most defenses won't be able to stop. And, like you said, we'd have to give up a couple of assets to acquire him. The most important thing with that would be to get Chicago to retain some salary. We know that the Rangers are a little cap strapped right now. We don't have all that money to go around. So whatever offer we make to Chicago, it would have to be good enough, or they would want to retain at least half of that salary. So we would only be paying around $5 million for this winger. And that's the biggest thing that the Rangers need to figure out.
Absolutely. Figuring out the money is the most important thing, but another important thing is how much are you willing to sacrifice for the present? How much of the future are you willing to sacrifice for the present is probably a better way to phrase that, because when you're talking about Patrick Kane, he's 34 years old, $10.5 million cap hit this year, and then his contract expires. 2023, he is an unrestricted free agent. So if the Rangers do trade for Patrick Kane, for Chicago, if they're ever going to trade him, they got to trade him now. You know, this is it. It's all or nothing now. You trade him and you get something for him, or he walks away in free agency next offseason. So for Chicago, it's very likely that they could end up trading him this offseason. This could be the year that they do it. But would the Rangers realistically want to get involved? Now, there are some reasons to think maybe they would. Okay, they just made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, made it all the way to Game 6 against the reigning champions, who were just dethroned, the Tampa Bay Lightning, of course, right? So basically, the Rangers are one player away, one superstar player away, maybe just one Patrick Kane away from making it to the Stanley Cup Finals. But what if they trade for Patrick Kane, give up all these young players that they could build a future around, and they still don't make it to the Stanley Cup Finals, or they still don't win the Stanley Cup Finals? Let's say they make it there and Patrick Kane just isn't enough to get them the cup, right? And then he leaves in free agency the next year. Then the whole thing is a wash. And that's personally why I'm not a big fan of the potential of trading for Patrick Kane. But yeah, there is something to be said about you trade for Patrick Kane, your odds of winning the Stanley Cup, they increase quite significantly. You could trade for him and then boom, that Eastern Conference Finals team is a Stanley Cup Finals team. So Eric, how valuable is he to you? Is he that guy? You know, you trade for Patrick Kane. Are you confident the Rangers are the Stanley Cup Finals, favorites for the year?
As long as we don't give up like our entire offensive core, I think he could definitely be the piece that would elevate us to Stanley Cup winners. But that's the risk. What happens if it doesn't work out like that? It's kind of like a similar situation to Marty St. Louis. We traded away our captain, Ryan Callahan, to the Tampa Bay Lightning to get their captain, Marty St. Louis, a much better player. He came in, played with us for 1 or 2 years. We made it all the way to the conference finals, then lost, and then he left. So it ended up just being we traded away our captain for a conference finals loss, which makes it really tough because Patrick Kane is obviously a lot better than Marty St. Louis, in my opinion. Crucify me in the comments if you'd like. But it's a decision that Chris Drury has to make. Do we want to win now? Do we want to trade away a lot of our young assets just for a star generational talent type player where we have a very strong chance of winning right now? Or, like I said last episode, do we trust the process and let our young guys take a couple years to develop into star players as well? And, like I said it again last episode, it depends on the trade, but I would be open to giving up a couple of players and letting a couple of players walk for Patrick Kane. I definitely think Patrick Kane is a lot better than Frank Vetrano and Andrew Kopp if we were to keep him on the wing, if we'd never fill up that second line center role. But yeah, I don't know. It's tough. It's a really tough decision to make right away because we don't know what the team is going to look like by the start of next season. So I would say if it's possible to maintain as much of our assets as possible, then yes, trade him, get Chicago to retain half of that salary. But if not, then no way. Too risky.
Well, let's go over some of those players. You mentioning players have to be traded or players have to walk. Let's go over some of those players that would be traded away potentially, or players that would be walking away in free agency because the Rangers would no longer be able to afford them. First, let's talk about some unrestricted free agents for the Rangers this offseason. Now, we've gone over a few of them already. We talked about Andrew Kopp and Ryan Strome in a previous video. Which one should the Rangers re-sign or make it the priority to re-sign? Go check out that video on the channel from a couple weeks ago. Those two are obviously free agents, Strome and Kopp. But then you also have restricted free agents like Kaapo Kakko, like Alexander Georgiev, who we've also talked about a couple times on this channel. And then, of course, you dive in and you still have Frank Vetrano as an unrestricted free agent. You can probably say goodbye to Frank Vetrano, Ryan Strome, and Andrew Kopp all together if this trade happens, just because they cannot afford those players. But then you're also talking about, okay, they still have to trade some players away to create some salary cap space, right? So then are we talking about Philip Hedl as well? Probably Kaapo Kakko as well to make the deal enticing enough for Chicago to bite. There are players that are going to have to be sacrificed for Patrick Kane. And Eric, I guess I'm wondering, Who are you willing to sacrifice, and who are you not willing to sacrifice for Patrick Kane?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it back-to-back episodes, but this is definitely a trade where Capo Caco could be involved. And, like, if you really think about the numbers, if we were to throw in a first-round pick just to entice Chicago, and then you also throw in Capo Caco, and then get Chicago to retain half of his salary, you just let Ryan Strome walk. Goodbye. And that just instantly opens up like $4 to $5 million worth of cap. And then get rid of Capo Caco. That's another close to $1 million. And you should have enough to keep Patrick Kane without letting that many other players go. It would take up a lot of our salary for looking for that second line center. But if you have a second line that consists of Panarin, Patrick Kane, it could be a mediocre center. It could be someone as terrible as Ryan Strome, and it would still just work because you have two generational talents on that second line. So, like that trade that I just broke down, I think that would be one of the most preferable options. Is it realistic? Probably not. I can't really see Chicago accepting that, but we know Chris Drury is an amazing GM, nominated for best GM of the year. So maybe he could work his magic one more time to pull this off.
I think there's 2 points that I want to react to and discuss out of what you just said. And first of all, I want to say Capo Caco probably is the Rangers' most valuable trade asset this offseason, in terms of the guys that you're probably willing to sacrifice. Of course, the potential rumors about maybe Panarin requesting a trade. We did talk about that earlier in a separate video on the channel. You can check that out. We don't think it's going to happen, but it could happen. And of course, he's probably the most valuable player on the Rangers, arguably. But
besides Igor,
that's actually the other guy that I had in mind. But, it's not realistic that the Rangers would trade those guys. I don't think that Panarin gets traded. But somebody who I do think could realistically get traded is Capo Caco. I think anytime this offseason we have a trade rumor discussion, trade speculation discussion video, Capo Caco's name is going to be mentioned just because he is such a valuable trade piece. Alexander Georgiev is also a valuable trade piece. Keep him in mind. That's somebody that could be traded, but he's not as valuable as Capo Caco. He's valuable, but not that valuable. And so I think those are two players that you're going to hear a lot in trade rumors and speculations for the Rangers. But the other name is going to be Philip Hedl. Philip Hedl is going to be involved in a lot of those trade discussions as well because he is still under contract. He does have a $2.3 million cap hit. That's a sizable chunk of change that the Rangers would want to get off the books potentially. And he's not a restricted free agent until next season. So Philip Hedl is another guy that you're going to hear involved in these trade rumors. But Capo Caco, man, listen, I've said it in the last episode. I've said it before. The writing seemed on the wall when he was a healthy scratch for Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals. I do think that if the right player comes to mind and the right trade package comes to mind, Chris Drury, Gerard Gallant, I think they are willing to send away Capo Caco to get the guy that they want, that next piece that pushes the team to the Stanley Cup Finals. I don't think they view 2022 version of Capo Caco as that piece that pushes the Rangers to the next level. I think they view Capo Caco's future as a trade piece to acquire the player that pushes them to the next level. And so personally, I do think there's a really good chance he gets moved this offseason in a deal for a second line center or a superstar potentially like a Patrick Kane, even though I don't think it's too likely. Now, the other point that I want to mention, Eric, is the first round pick. You said, well, maybe they could trade this player or that player and a first round pick. So, of course, we know the Rangers don't have a first-round pick 2022. So we're talking about 2023's first-round pick. So the Rangers would basically give up their 2023 first-round pick. So then they're not picking in the first round again until 2024. And they're doing this to acquire Patrick Kane, who's a free agent in 2023. So basically, I can't get behind it. I can't get behind the first round pick gone in 2023 when you're already missing one in 2022. So the next 2 years, no first round picks. You're really mortgaging your future in order to try to win now with Patrick Kane. And again, I just think this is a move that is too risky. What if Patrick Kane isn't enough? What if somebody gets injured, and the season gets wrecked? You make this big swing with Patrick Kane to try and push the team into the Stanley Cup Finals. Someone gets hurt and the whole thing falls apart. And then it's just a waste. And then all of a sudden, 2023 rolls around. Your team is deteriorating because your older players are getting older. Your younger players are getting older. And you don't have any more young, great talents coming in. So personally, That's where I stand with this. I can't get behind it, especially if there's a future first-round pick involved in the trade. But Eric, I'm curious to know why you might just have a different opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you, along with most Rangers fans watching this, are screaming at their screens listening to what I'm saying right now. But, that's kind of just the way that things have been working recently. You look at a team like the Tampa Bay Lightning. They had a very young team, and they just basically threw away their entire future for a win now mentality. And it worked. They won 2 cups in a row and then made it to the finals just this year, going for a three-peat, which they ultimately never accomplished. Go Avalanche. But now they're kind of screwed for the future. So the question is, like, is it worth it winning now to mess up your future? And when it comes to the Rangers, I might sound crazy, but I think the answer might just be yes. It's like we did the same thing throughout the mid 2010s. We got everything to win a cup right then and there. We made it there in 2014. We came very close in 2015 again. And then all of our guys got old and we had no future draft picks. And everyone was like, oh, the Rangers are going to be terrible for the next 20 years. But our old GM, along with our assistant GM, current GM, Chris Jury, managed to pull off one of the most efficient and productive rebuilds in NHL history. In the span of 3 years, we went from one of the worst teams in the NHL to being right back on top. And I have no doubt in my mind that we would be able to do it again if this plan backfired. And, that's not just me saying throw away everything that we have to get Patrick Kane and use it all in one attempt next year to win the cup. But I will say we have what it takes to take risks. If we take a risk and it doesn't work, we can always recover because of the confidence that I have in our team and our general manager. So don't give away everything for Patrick Kane, but if the right offer presents itself, there's no reason to not take it.
I guess that's well said. Can't argue too much with that logic. Personally, I'm still on my stance. I'm not sacrificing the future for Patrick Kane. First of all, I don't really like Patrick Kane. Second of all, he's a great player, but he's only here for 1 year. I really, you take a look at some of the expiring free agents next season as well. That's another thing that we should mention. 2023, you got Philip Hedl, who will be a restricted free agent. You got Lafreniere, who will be a restricted free agent. Dryden Hunt will be an unrestricted free agent. There's going to be players that need to be re-signed. Keandre Miller will be a restricted free agent. So, the Rangers are going to want to save their money for next year, go in, get their young guys. I don't know. It would be tough to really see this being a realistic possibility for the Rangers. And again, I don't want to sacrifice the entire future for Patrick Kane. I do think there's an avenue where Kaapo Kakko gets traded. The Rangers get a great second line center, yada, yada, and they make that swing for the Stanley Cup Finals. But trading away too much for 1 year of a really good player, I don't know. But then again, we did just have a JT Miller discussion, very similar discussion. Go check that out on the channel if you haven't seen that one yet. We talked about potentially trading for JT Miller, and again, making a huge swing for the Stanley Cup Finals. But that pretty much wraps up this topic. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let us know down in the comment section below what you think of a potential Patrick Kane trade. You for it? You against it? Is Eric crazy? Do you want to kill Eric for even presenting this idea?
I'm
Maybe.
Definitely crazy.
Eric is a little bit crazy. I can confirm he's one of my best buddies, and he is definitely crazy.
It's the Ryan Strom effect.
It's like, sure, call it that or call it Eric syndrome. I don't know. It's an Eric thing. But make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this episode. Again, comment down below your thoughts on the topic. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Ring the bell so you don't miss a video. And we'll catch you all in the next one. Have a good one. And let's go Rangers.
Go Rangers.
He shoots. He scores!